Leaves from a Russian Diary. Pitirim Sorokin. Part 1. 1917. Chapter 3. Since freedom everything is permitted. March-April, 1917.
The old regime has fallen throughout Russia and very few regret it. The whole country rejoices. The Tsar has abdicated for himself and for his son. Grand Duke Michael has refused the throne. A provisional government has been elected, and its manifesto is one of the most liberal and democratic documents which has ever been issued. All Tsarist officers from ministers to policemen have been dismissed and replaced by men devoted to the Republic, for no one doubts that we shall have a republic. The majority of people are hopeful, and expect the war to be carried on more successfully. Everybody, soldiers, statesmen, students, citizens, and peasants, displays immense activity. Peasants are bringing corn to the towns and to the army, sometimes even free of charge. Military regiments and workmen groups display standards, long life to the revolution. The peasants to the plough, the workers to the looms and presses, the soldiers to the trenches. We, the free people of Russia, will defend the country and the revolution.
See how splendid the people are.
Exulted a friend of mine, pointing to one of these demonstrations. It certainly seems to be all right, I answered. But trying to convince myself that it was all right, I cannot shut my eyes to certain realities. While the workers bear aloft their banners, the workers to the looms and presses, they have ceased to work and spend almost all their time at political meetings. They begin to demand an 8-hour, and even a 6-hour working day. How can we allow such a reduction of working hours when war and revolution call for increased effort, increased production? The soldiers are apparently ready to fight, but yesterday when one of the regiments was ordered to the front the men refused to go, under the pretext that they were needed in Petrograd to defend the revolution. In these days we have also received information that peasants are seizing private estates, sacking and burning them. In the streets I have observed many intoxicated men, bawling obscenities, and crying.
Long life to freedom. Since we have freedom, everything is permitted.
Passing a house near the Bestuzhevsky Women's University, I saw a crowd of men laughing and gesticulating crazily. In the shadow of the gate, in plain sight, were a man and a woman behaving in the most indecent manner.
Ha, ha!
Laughed the crowd.
Since freedom, everything is permitted.
Today on the Basinaya street a group of scoundrels began to loot the Cherpinikov wine shop.
Now we have freedom, therefore don't interfere with us.
They protested to citizens who tried to restrain them. This kind of thing, and the incidents are very numerous, means something dangerous. But patience. Perhaps my apprehensions are premature. Today has been full of sensations. In the morning 2 of my friends who are examining the archives and the record office of the Tsarist Okrenka, State Department for the Persecution of Political and Revolutionary Activity, told me that some of the trusted leaders of the Social Revolutionary Party and of the Social Democratic Bolshevist Party have also been agents and spies of the Okrenka. Among these were the editor-in-chief of the Bolshevist newspaper Pravda, Mr. Chermanisoff, an intimate friend of Lenin, and one of our own workers, a man regarded as a most sincere social revolutionary. At the very time when these men and their kind had been working for the revolution, they had been denouncing for something like 25 to 50 rubles a month their own comrades, causing them to be arrested, imprisoned, and exiled. What villains! Now we understand why, during all these years, revolutionary organizations were so easily discovered by the Tsar's government, why so many men of our secret councils were arrested in 1913. Betrayed by their own comrades. How many times it has happened during the last few years, beginning with the Azev case. All this time, it appears, among revolutionary and socialistic parties have existed provocateurs, creatures posing as revolutionists, pretending to be ready any day to assassinate the Tsar and his ministers, yet really plotting to deliver their associates to the hangman. What a revelation of human depravity! Last night we held the first meeting of old members of the Social Revolutionary Party, 20 or 30 tried and trusted leaders. Among these impudently appeared this worker provocateur, who had not yet learned of his unmasking. The object of our meeting was to define our relation to the provisional government and to complete the legal organization of the party. Listening to the discussion, I discovered that the talk was becoming more and more radical, some of the men, and especially this provocateur, insisting upon a negative attitude towards the provisional government, an immediate ending of war, according to the Kintel and Zimmerwald resolution of 1916, and finally upon the organization of a purely socialistic government. As soon as he finished his tirade, a friend and I called the man aside and said to him, "Your connection with the Ukrainka is known to us. Tomorrow it will be universally known. Unless you immediately leave this meeting, we shall denounce you here and now."
You are insulting me,
blustered he, turning very pale nevertheless. "We are really saving your worthless life," we replied. "Unless you clear out this minute, we shall stand up and tell what we know." The man grabbed his overcoat and fled. After his departure, I challenged the proposals of the extremists and finally forced through a resolution to support the government. This resolution was accepted by the majority, with a characteristic reservation, provided the government adheres to its program. This meeting showed me that the even balance of mind in the members of old and reliable men of the party had begun to waver. If it is so even with these men, what will happen in the mob? Truly we have entered a critical period, more critical than I had feared. Today there was another meeting of social revolutionary leaders to found a newspaper and to appoint its editors. The discussion was heated and disclosed clearly the existence within the party of two different elements, social patriots and internationalists. The first are more moderate. They are ready to support the provisional government, and are opposed to rushing the country into socialism. While they agree to the policy of no annexations or contributions, they are, at the same time, partisans of a defensive war for the protection of Russia and the revolution. They want the war to end as soon as possible, but they oppose a separate peace as being treachery to the Allies. The extreme element, on the other hand, want to substitute for a defensive war the class struggle. They demand immediate termination of the war even by a separate peace with Germany. They call for immediate socialization of the land and the factories, the dictatorship of workmen and peasants, and the substitution of the present bourgeois government by a socialistic state. After a long and tedious debate, the 5 editors of the newspaper, to be called the Delo Naroda, the affair of the people, were elected. They are Rusanov, Ivanov Razumnik, Mstislavsky, Kukovsky, and myself. I can't quite see how we are to agree on the policies of the paper, Kukovsky and I being very moderate social patriots, the others internationalists. Alas! At the very first meeting of the editors to arrange for the paper's initial appearance, 5 hours were wasted in vain dispute. Articles submitted by the internationalists were rejected by us, and all our articles were denounced by them. 3 times we started to leave the room, but each time returned. At last we all began to reread the leading editorials, pitilessly blue-penciling the most telling passages of each. As a result, both moderate and radical articles were shorn of value without losing any of their contradictions. An auspicious beginning. Delo Naroda, as issued, proved a newspaper in which one article appeared denouncing another on the same page. This sort of thing cannot go on, and we all admit it. We agreed to continue publication in this form only up to the next conference of the Petrograd branch of the party, but how the quarrel will be decided is easy enough to foretell. The mind of the people is drifting towards extreme radicalism. Newspapers, even the reactionary Novo Vremya, vie with each other in radical utterances. All monarchist newspapers have been suppressed and their printing establishments confiscated. The socialists agree that this is perfectly proper, but how does this square with the liberty of the press once so ardently advocated by them? As soon as ambition's debt is paid, it seems that radicals become even more despotic than the reactionaries. Power incites tyranny. Speaking at meetings of workmen, I hear oftener and oftener demands to finish the war. More and more I hear the capitalists denounced and even menaced. The workers have it obstinately in their heads that all their misfortunes were deliberately caused by the bourgeois. That the government must be purely socialistic, and that a general massacre of all exploiters must take place is rapidly spreading among the people. Every attempt of engineers and managers to maintain discipline in works and factories, to keep up the scale of production, or to discharge slackers is considered counter-revolution. Among the soldiers the situation is no better. Obedience and discipline have almost disappeared. The soldiers are becoming loafers, doing nothing and respecting nobody, calling themselves heroes who have a right to do what they like and appropriate whatever they desire. On the front conditions are a little more encouraging. But 1,000 agitators and propagandists have been allowed to go to the army to reinforce it, and I think they will soon succeed in demoralizing it. As for the mujiks, the peasants, even they begin to grow restless and may soon join themselves to the Soviets, my God. These adventurers, self-elected deputies of soldiers and workmen, these destitute intellectuals, play acting the drama of revolution, assuming the characters of French revolutionaries. Talking endlessly, all their energies devoted to the destruction of the provisional government and to preparations for the dictatorship of the proletariat, which fears its own Soviet. The Soviet interferes in everything, and whatever constructive ideas any of its members may possess, their acts lead only to disorganization of government and unleashing the wild beast instincts of the mob. The government? It may be better to say nothing about these men, high-minded and idealistic. They do not know the ABC of the science of government. They do not appear to know what they themselves want done, and even if they did know they could accomplish nothing. Strangely perhaps, I sometimes long for some powerful force to appear and put a tight bridle on all these rabid and uncertain groups. I think it would be better for us than this general unrest and division which threatens I know not what misfortunes for my country. Today was held the funeral of the victims who died for the revolution. What a moving spectacle! Hundreds of thousands of people moving behind thousands of red and black banners with the words, "Glory to those who perished for liberty." Marvelous music, voices, and bands joining in the funeral hymn. Perfect order and discipline as for hours the endless procession wound through the streets. The faces of the marchers were solemn and uplifted. Such a crowd thrills me. It is so human. Tonight it was my turn to act as editor-in-chief of Delo Naroda. The paper went to press at about 3 o'clock in the morning and, as usual, I went home on foot. The night streets are not so crowded and it is easier to observe changes which have taken place in Petrograd during this month of revolution. The picture is not very pleasant. The streets are littered with papers, dust, dung, and sunflower seeds, Russian equivalent of peanut shells. Windows of many houses, bullet shattered, are stopped with paper. In fire-swept rooms marks of bullets can plainly be traced on the walls. In the parks trees and shrubs have ruthlessly been damaged, and every blank wall is patched over with placards, notices, and political proclamations. Soldiers and prostitutes in every by-street behave with revolting indecency.
Comrade! Let the proletarians of all countries unite. Come home with me.
A painted creature accosted me. A most original application of the revolutionary slogan. Everywhere are seen couples embracing and kissing as they walk along or sit on the roofs of houses. Some dance madly in the streets. From time to time firing is heard. Laughter and weeping of women breaks into the general chorus of
Freedom now. No pharaoh has the right to touch us. Long live the revolution.
All political prisoners have been released and are flocking home from Siberia and from abroad. They are met triumphantly by government committees, by soldiers, workmen, and the public generally. Bands, flags, and speeches greet each new group of arrivals. The returned exiles bear themselves like conquering heroes who deserve to be worshipped by the people as liberators and benefactors. There is an amusing aspect of the case, for a large number of these people never were political offenders, but common convicts, thieves, murderers, and ordinary swindlers. All, however, are treated alike, as victims of Tsarism. It appears that among other forms of vanity there is a revolutionary vanity which claims everything for itself. This form is ridiculous, but it may easily be dangerous also. Many returned politicals show evidences of disturbed minds and unbalanced emotions. Full of ambition for revenge, they naturally ally themselves with the extremists, trying to carry revolution to its utmost limits. Their arrival means the increase of forces of social disintegration. There is grave danger that these people, as in revolutions before this one, will be given power. Having spent years in prison and exile, at hard and degrading labor, they inevitably begin to introduce into society the methods and cruelties they themselves have lived under. Hatred, cruelty, and contempt of human life and suffering, such are the invariable manifestations of their minds.
For the success of the revolution, it is necessary to destroy or to imprison all capitalists, all rich people, and aristocrats,
said one of these returned exiles, who immediately after his arrival began to incite peasants to burn estates and murder landlords. I think your program a little ferocious, I expostulated him.
Not a bit of it.
He retorted fiercely.
It's the only thorough and efficient program possible.
The Soviet, packed with these heroes, loses more and more sense of reality. It directs its energy to obstructing the government, preaching socialism, and doing nothing at all towards the re-education and reorganization of Russian society. Its proclamations are addressed to all, or to the whole world. The speeches and demeanor of the leaders are absurdly pompous. They seem to possess no sense of humor, and are unable to see how comic is their pose. Steklov Nakhamks, who 2 years ago petitioned the Tsar to be allowed to preface his somewhat plebeian surname Nakhamks with the more aristocratic Steklov, now plays the part of an old revolutionist. It is disgusting. He is a dirty person, dirty both physically and mentally, and it is certain that he will change his opinions according to the situation. Jimmer, a mixture of Jew and German, an obscure journalist, now imitates first Robespierre, then Talleyrand. As Robespierre he appears with a red rose in his buttonhole, delivering himself of long and tedious speeches without a whole idea in any of them. Chkidze, chairman of the Soviet, is a rather simple-minded, sympathetic Georgian, possessed of a strong voice and all the catchword patter of Marxianism. Liebert is a very emotional Jew, a good speaker, delirious with revolutionary ardor, but on occasions capable of reason. Tsereteli, also a Georgian, is one of the best and cleverest men in the Soviet. I hope in time he may become a normal and even a creative statesman. Skobelev is merely a rather stupid son of a merchant family. His is the characteristic face of a Russian shop clerk who admires himself and thinks all servant girls in love with him. He has neither brains, will power, nor oratorical ability. Gotz, a good Jew, clever and talented, is spoiled by long imprisonment and fixed ideas on socialism. Dan, a Jewish surgeon who knows his specialty about as well as I know the simple principles of medicine, is convinced that he is one of the cleverest of politicians. If you mix together all average Marxians, undersized, fat-minded, and deficient in clear thought, and add to the mixture the whole collection of socialist mottos and slogans, you will have Dan Mstislavsky is a man who is not a soldier, who opposes the war, and yet who dresses in uniform and up to the very outbreak of revolution, was a contributor to official Tsarist newspapers. A perfect Tartuffe. As for other leaders, they are hangers-on from nowhere in particular. And it is these people who tell the army that the war was made by capitalists for their own selfish purposes. They are not even consistent in this declaration. At one time they say to the soldiers,
"Your officers are all reactionaries. Disobey them when you see fit, and end the war as soon as possible."
At another time they exclaim,
"Soldiers, obey your officers, fight, defend the revolution."
What but utter confusion and chaos can result from such contradictions? As for the government, it is equally chaotic and impotent. Division of authority is now complete and the government loses ground every day.
What the devil are they doing? Whom are they sending to the army, and for what purpose?
A young officer, newly from the front, asked in my office recently. He had listened to speeches of agitators sent down by the Soviet and had returned to Petrograd full of indignation.
"If we are to carry on the war,"
he said,
"we must stop this propaganda which is simply demoralizing the whole army. If we are to withdraw from the war, then let the government and the Soviet announce it at once. Then they can preach their socialism as much as they please. As it is now, the government and the Soviet order us to defend the country, and all the time they are sending their agitators to tell the soldiers that the war is being fought only for capitalists, that it is time to stop it, and that officers who order them to maintain discipline are only counter-revolutionists. What madness!
I sympathized with this officer, a former student who had fought bravely during all the campaigns, but all I could do was to refer him to my colleague, Mr. Mstislavsky, who was one of these demoralizers of the army. An hour later the officer came out of Mstislavsky's office, red and excited. I asked him what he had learned, and he replied hotly.
I have learned what we must do immediately if Russia is to live. That is to march the army back to Petrograd, arrest all these traitors, and send them to Germany. If we don't, our country is ruined, the war is lost, and the revolution is defeated.
In my heart I feared that this man spoke the truth. Mr. Fleckel, secretary of the Petrograd branch of the Social Revolutionary Party, told me today that
things are going on well.
That hundreds of thousands of people, students, peasants, and workmen, were joining our party.
Is it not wonderful?
He said. It is indeed wonderful that in 1 month millions suddenly become socialists who, a month ago, had not the remotest idea of what socialism means, I replied sarcastically. But I would be better satisfied if the party, instead of taking in all these people, could agree on a policy among the leaders.
What do you propose then for the success of the revolution?
I want a little more intelligence and judgment, fewer promises, less obstruction, and above all, discouragement of the beast impulses of the mob. In this sudden success of socialistic parties I see only the disappearance of normal common sense and caution, only loosening of the animal in man. Angrily the secretary turned away. Today in 2 principal bookshops, the Wolf and Karbasnikov shops, they told me that books about revolution, particularly the French Revolution, were selling rapidly. On the tables of many politicians also I have seen these books. It is understandable now why, in speech and manners, so many of them recall French leaders and sans culottes.